universe will bestow some yoga gift on me for this. That's my big hope. And it is that time. So go ahead, and I know that Anne usually has us start in Swastikasana, but let's start in Sukhasana, which is just a slightly, it's still a cross-legged pose, but instead of pulling the tops of our feet in close to us, we are on the side knife edge of the foot, and the side of the foot is pointing to the wall beside us. So the 2 feet are pointing that way, and we're on those knife edges. Does that make sense to everybody? Oh, and we are starting now for whoever edits the video. So it's a slightly different pose, and it does slightly different things in the groins and hips. So just for a little bit of a change and to feel that difference, let's go ahead and do Sukhasana. So again, yes, you're on the knife edges of your foot, and as much as possible, don't let the ankles sag down, the soles of the feet, and of course you can't see with this foot, but this foot is really pointing straight that way. I could take a brick, and I could put it here, and it would go flat against the brick as if I were standing on it. So try to have the soles of your feet point straight sideways, and they should be close to under your knees. Good, I can't see everybody's legs, but I will trust you all. And then go ahead and clear your sits bones. Make sure that the feet are still pointing sideways. Drive the sits bones into your support to lift up through the lower back, to lift up through the lower ribs, to lift up through the side ribs, up into the cervical spine as if there's one line pulling you up. There you go. Bob, you look like you might be leaning a little to your right. Is that possible? Yeah.
I don't know.
If that doesn't feel true, it may be that the camera's a little angled. So yeah, if that's the case,
angle, so that they
okay. Okay, I will try to remember that and not wrongly correct you all class. So everybody then take your fingertips and lift up one more time. What we're trying to do here is get more height. It is forward fold week, and the first thing we're going to need to do is get extra length in our torso and spine so that we can make those forward folds. And then when you've gotten as much height as you go ahead and bring your palms together, your chest. Use thumbs to raise the sternum one more time and release the trapezius muscles down toward the floor. Then be sure that the back of the neck is still lifting up. That means your chin's not jutting forward, and allow your eyes to close. And just for a moment, observe your own breath. Just notice its qualities this morning. Is it fast or slow, smooth or rough, deep or shallow? We use the observation of the breath to draw our awareness away from the outer world and inward toward the realm of yoga. I left everybody unmuted right now, so if you want to join me in chanting Om, you may. Otherwise, you can just listen, and then I'll mute people since there are a handful of us as soon as we're done with this. So if you're going to chant, complete exhalation, full inhalation. Re-lift your chest. Release your head toward your heart. Set an intention for your practice this morning. Release your hands, raise your head, and softly open your eyes. Just let the light in. Grab a strap. Let's open our shoulders first. And you should be not too close to the wall for this because we're going to be doing the shoulder flossing where we move the strap behind us. So be sure that you won't hit the wall. So take your hands as wide apart on your strap as they need to be. And first, just hold the strap in your fists. The goal is to keep your elbows poker straight as you come up and back and to keep your arms even. So be really rigorous with yourself. If your elbows micro bend as you get to that sticky place right here at the back, then spread your hands a little further apart on the strap so that you can keep those elbows poker straight. And remember also to keep your spine straight. Another way that our bodies try to unconsciously cheat is we curve our spine down as we try to pull the strap up. So don't, spine straight, elbows straight. And just slowly go back and forth, find the place where the resistance is and see if with your exhalation, you can breathe a little more opening into those tight places in the shoulders. And now with the feeling of this clearly in our minds, keep your hands where they are, but just put your thumbs on the strap and pull away with those thumbs. It engages the inner arm muscles more, and do the same action pressing with your thumbs into the strap. And then go back to the first grip with just the fists, and we'll do a little bit of side opening. This is not for the shoulders, this is for the side body, but it's really lovely before forward bend. So just open your rib cage up to the ceiling. Lift the rib cage, get as long as you can. Feel that arc happen in the top part of the torso, and then second side. And release the strap. Extend the legs briefly to Dandasana on the way to changing the cross. Notice which leg comes out first so that you can cross them the opposite way in a second. But do take a real proper Dandasana. Extend the legs, press the thighs down, lively up the toes. We'll be coming back to this pose soon. And then recross the second way. Remember, knife edges of the feet on the floor instead of the tops of the feet, and sides of the feet facing directly. Good. And then arms straight out. We're heading toward Baddha Kolasana, bound finger pose. Hello, good to see you. Interlace the fingers. Rotate the palms out. Go ahead and draw the trapezius muscles down here because they like to hike when we swing the hands up. And with the trapezius muscles pulling down, press through the sits bones, and from those 2 points, pull the arms up. And make one line of energy from those 2 sits bones pressing into your support through the palms. Get long, straighten the elbows any amount more that is possible. Then see if you can move the arms any amount behind your head. One more breath. And release. And then change the cross of the fingers so that the other first finger is on top. Extend the arms out. Rotate. Trapezius muscles down first. And then swing the arms up. From the sits bones through the palms, get long. But keep reminding yourself, if you're anything like me, to draw the trapezius muscles down because these thick muscles behind the shoulder like to pull up. Trapezius down, arms up. See if you can move the hands any amount behind the head. Last breath. And release. And then go ahead and extend your legs into Dandasana. Now, if you don't need height for your Dandasana, that's fine. You can sit on the floor. But the rule is your sacrum has to be perfectly vertical. So if your sacrum bunches back at all, then take some support, some blankets under your sits bones so that you can sit tall and straight. And everybody keep your strap. We're going to use the strap to help us in Dandasana for a little while today. So first, let's come into our Dandasana staff pose. I see some new people have joined, and I'm sorry I can't read the names from this far away, but hi, good to see you. So Dandasana, press the sits bones down. From those 2 points, lift the entire torso up, press the thighs down. The legs work mightily the entire time. And not only are the thighs pressing down, but the legs are extending out also through the big toe base joints. So down and out, lively up the toes. That helps to keep the muscles of the legs spread. For a minute, you can use your fingertips beside you and lift up even more. Be sure that the sternum continues to lift. Then grab that strap, lasso your metatarsals, so right around the ball of the foot, and use that, this is so much easier, isn't it, to help lift your torso up. So you're using your arms, pulling on the strap to lift the torso up. And feel how that helps you. Pulling on the feet like that helps remind us to engage the legs too. So for just a minute, press the thighs down, keep the feet spreading, the toes spreading. Don't let the feet go to sleep just because we have this nice support of the belt. So everything is working, but we've got this little bit of extra help with the belt. But now we're going to do something special. Keeping the legs working to their maximum, keeping the spine straight, keeping the sternum lifted. Once you have all that in place, drop your belt, don't let anything flag, and swing your arms up to Urdhva Hastasana. Are your legs still pressing down as much as they can? Are they also still extending out as much as they can? Are you still spreading your toes? I know this is starting to feel long, but one more extension, make everything work. And then release. Lovely. And now let's come into our first Adho Mukha Svanasana of the day. So hands and knees. First fingers of the hand are parallel to the edges of the mat. Spread the fingers. I know Anne's been talking about really spreading the fingers to put them down. And that's a wonderful way to be sure that you're really pressing that first finger and thumb base joint. Then roll the upper arms forward so that they're pressing, so that the eyes of your elbow face forward. Tuck your toes under. Draw the shoulder blades and trapezius muscles down towards your buttocks now. Bend the knees, tuck the toes, and press up. Keep the knees bent for just a second so that you can really lift the sits bones up to the ceiling. So you're up on your toes, your knees are a little bent, and you're pressing through the first finger base joint to draw the shoulder blades toward the thighs. Really pull those shoulder blades in. Then when you've got the shoulder blades in, then straighten the knees, keep the toes up, or keep the heels up for just a minute to really get the extension in the spine. And after a couple of breaths here, then you can slowly start to pull the heels down toward the floor. And of course, in this boot, I will not be able to go as far as I normally can, but you can pull your heels down as far as your body will let you. Check back in with your arms. Be sure that the shoulder blades are still pulling toward the thighs. I'm coming up to look. You all stay. Nice. Everybody, a little more shoulder blade toward the thighs. Shoulder blade toward the thighs. Then lift the forearms up as if the forearms were moving away from the ground. Press into that first finger and thumb base joint. I see some forearms flagging. One more breath. Engage the legs as if somebody were pulling you back to the wall behind you. And then walk forward. Once your feet are under your hips, stop. Engage the legs, but let the head and torso hang for a moment. So you're still working the legs, but the top part of the body is relaxed. Then put your hands on your hips and continuing to work the legs, roll the shoulders back and come all the way up to standing. Now we'll do a tiny bit of standing work. And I, because I'm in this silly boot, have to have something to stand on so that I'm even. There. So Tadasana. Classical Tadasana is feet together. So go ahead and bring, if you have lower back issues, you can go ahead and start with your feet hip width apart. If you're not dealing with any lower back issues, do the classical pose, feet together. So that's big toes together, heels together. And then press the big toe base joint. Press the outer heel. Everybody lift all 10 toes up to the ceiling. Does that engage the legs more? I left y'all unmuted. You could actually answer. Nobody's answering. Oh, maybe y'all muted yourselves. All right, well, it should engage the legs more. So keep that engagement of the legs. Keep the quadriceps. Move the buttocks toward the floor. and gently let the toes come back down, but the legs keep working. Then, with all of that leg action, go ahead and swing the arms up into Urdhva Hastasana one more time. Now, check back in with the feet, pressing the big toe base joint and outer heel, lifting the quadriceps, buttocks moving toward the heels, and the arms reaching toward the ceiling. How are your trapezius muscles doing? Can we release them down toward the floor? If they moved a lot, that means that you want to pay attention to that every time you swing your arms up. One more extension. And release the arms. Now, since it is forward fold week, we're going to head toward Uttanasana, but we're going to start with Ardha Uttanasana. So again, if you're having any lower back things, keep your feet hip width apart. If not, you can use the classical pose. So from your Tadasana, again, big toe base joint and heels pressing down, knees lifted, quadriceps lifted, buttocks moving toward the floor. That keeps the lower back safe. Go ahead, and if your back is okay, swing your arms up and pivot forward, but keep the back flat as your hands come to either bricks in front of you. And if you need to grab your bricks, go ahead, or come to the entire floor, but back flat. This is still the concave back phase. Oops, I should go sideways. So we're in the concave back phase of this pose, and come down as low as you can, keeping your back concave. Check back in regularly with the legs, press the big toe base joint, press the outer heel, engage the quadriceps and pull the entire thigh back to the wall behind you. That work never ends, but for me, I have to go through the checklist every now and then because something flags. And pull the thoracic spine toward the floor. That keeps the spine straight. So sternum forward, thoracic spine down. These are looking good. Everybody re-engage those quadriceps. One more breath, and then we're going to bend our elbows and come to the full pose. So keeping the legs working like fire, go ahead and bend the elbows and let the torso and head drape. So just like we did a minute ago, the legs are still active, but the torso and head are relaxed. Work the legs, lift the quadriceps, pull the thighs back to the wall behind you, and see if that allows your torso to come any closer to your legs. Abide. And come back through the concave phase. So lift the torso, keep the legs engaged, descend the thoracic spine toward the floor. And then hands to your hips, roll the shoulders back, and come all the way up. All right. I would like you all to do Trikonasana next, and unfortunately, that is one of the poses I cannot do in this boot. So I will talk you through it because my ankle doesn't go sideways. So take your legs wide, wider than this, but I really can't do that. So legs wide. Go ahead and take your arms out because the measurement for the legs ideally is that your ankles end up under your wrists. Good. Good, and then check to be sure that the outer feet are parallel to the edges of the mat, the outer edges of the mat. Good, and here too, press the big toe base joint, but then really press those outer heels down and feel how it engages the legs in a different way. And then let's check in with the arms. Everybody turn your palms up. Extend the arms even more away from each other. Keeping that engagement, especially in the triceps, the bottom arm muscles. Roll just the palms back over, but keep the arms engaged. Good. Now turn your left toes in slightly, and your right leg, now I can do this on the heel, right, but I'm not mirroring. And your right leg all the way to the right. Good. And then keeping, check to be sure that the heel is in line with that the right heel is in line with the left arch. If it's not, go ahead and adjust. And then keeping the torso and pelvis straight forward, don't let them tip toward the front leg. Go ahead and come over into your Trikonasana. You can bring your hand to either a brick or the shin, whatever's comfortable for you. And yeah, let's go ahead and put our hand on the hip for a minute to get the rotation of the torso. So check back in with the left leg. Is there still weight on the left leg? Then extend the bottom ribs. Don't let the ribs bubble up. And with that hand on the hip, roll the torso to the ceiling, any amount. Good. And then let the top arm come up. The arms should be in one line. Keep rolling the torso and chest to the ceiling and pull the two arms away from each other. If your neck is bothering you, you can look down, but open the chest. Don't let the chest follow that head if you look down. One more breath, really engage the legs. I'm gonna sound like a broken record about the legs. And then to come up, lift with the top arm, toes forward, and step your feet together. That went pretty well. It does look like when some people, and this is gonna be hard to show, when we turn our legs forward, see how my whole torso unconsciously turns a little bit toward the front leg? So everybody really re-square to the front before we come back down after that, okay? So we're gonna go to your second side. I'm gonna do the same side again because I can't do it this way. So spread your legs wide, extend your arms, go ahead and quickly turn your palms up, extend the arms and turn the palms back down again. Feel how that really engages the triceps. Good. And then go ahead and come over, go ahead, park this time your right hand on your hip. Go ahead and park the right hand on the hip because it allows you to roll the chest to the ceiling more. We get more length in the chest, we get more opening in the chest. These are looking good. And then keeping the legs working, keeping weight in the back leg, then extend that top arm up. Good. And pull the two arms away from each other. They're not just hanging out, they're extending. The legs are extending, the arms are extending, the torso is extending. If it's okay with your neck, look up at the thumb. One more extension of all these points. And then lift with the top arm, feet forward, and step together. Good. Supta Padangusthasana. So in service of moving toward these forward bends, let's go ahead and do some Supta Padangusthasanas. And this time, I know sometimes we do them with our feet at the wall, but this time let's use our own muscles to keep the grounded leg solid and not use the wall as a to get a blanket. And we will recline on the mat. Now, for those of you who don't remember what Supta Padangusthasana is, I'll go ahead and show really quickly. Always come down with your knees bent, then extend your legs. I'll show before and then I'll walk you through it. From Supta Tadasana, reclining Tadasana, reclining mountain pose, you'll go ahead and you'll bend up. We'll start with your right leg, but I'll show with the leg that actually doesn't have a boot on it. Bend up the leg, move the two thighs away from each other here. This isn't just a preparatory phase. This is a real action itself. So I'm really extending this thigh this way, this thigh this way. And then keeping the bottom thigh grounded, we've built up the metatarsals. Try not to let the ground leg move at all as we straighten the top leg. At first, we'll just come to perpendicular to the floor, but after a few breaths, if you can take that leg further, you can go ahead and do that. Straight arms and straight legs, so walk up on your strap enough so that you don't bend your elbows to do this. If you can hold the toe and keep the shoulder on the ground, that's fine, but you have to keep the shoulder on the ground if you hold your toe. So this is the first one, and then we'll go straight to the second one, which is out to the side. And after we've done both of those, we'll take a break. So go ahead and get yourself set up. Come down with bent knees. Oh, y'all have been doing it with me. Okay. Let's go into it again now, because we weren't there very long. So did everybody take time to move your buttock flesh towards your heels when you lay down? Because that's important. If we just kind of lie down sloppily, it can crunch the lower back. So move the buttock flesh toward the heels with bent knees, then extend the legs. Good, perfect. And now engage both thighs, press them into the floor and extend through the big toe face joints. The legs are really working. Again, broken record. Then bend up your right knee and pull it into your chest And move those two thighs away from each other. Left thigh is moving toward the wall at your feet. Right thigh is moving up towards your ear. Move them away from each other. And then strap the right metatarsal. Good. Keep the left leg poker straight. Good job. I saw a couple of people whose legs didn't even waver as they lifted that right leg. Good. And now extend through both legs. They're in different elements, but they are doing the same thing. Both quadriceps are engaged. Both legs are extending. Press even more through the lifted big toe base joint as if you were pressing a gas pedal. Not the toe, the base joint. Not the toe, the base joint. Pretty much everybody could extend more through the big toe base joint. And that will also straighten some of the backs of those knees. Good. Straighten the elbows, walk the hands up the strap. And the reason for that is when our elbows microbend, our brains think our knees can too. Our brains play all these tricks on us. Good. All right, extend one more time. And if you can bring the foot any closer to your head with the shoulders still on the ground, this is a good time to do so. Challenge yourself. Yes. Yes. But don't forget the grounded leg. Keep pressing that left thigh into the ground. Keep extending away with the left big toe base joint. These are looking good. All right, now take the strap in your right hand. Extend your left arm out at shoulder height, palm out. We're going to come down to Supta 2 in a second. Yep. Roll the right hip toward the wall at your feet before you descend the leg because the hip likes to hike up. Yes. Keep the leg straight though. Leg straight, yes. Just roll the hip to lengthen the right side of the body. And then take that right foot up and over as if it were heading up toward the right shoulder. Up and up. Yeah, if you need to bend your elbow to use as a prop for the leg, that's fine. You can also keep the arm straight. It's entirely up to you. Good. Now check back in with the left thigh. Is it still pressing down toward the ground? Roll the abdominal muscles over from right to left as if they were pulling toward the left hip. Feel how that flattens your body on the floor because the weight of the right leg sometimes tips us a little to the right. Using the abdomen can re-straighten us. Yes. Everybody grabs their left abdomen. That's cute. One more extension. Check in with the grounded leg first. Is the left leg still working its maximum? Are you still pressing the thigh and extending through the big toe base joint? Good. Now extend through the right leg the same way. Engage the quadricep, pull through the right big toe base. And descend the hip toward the wall that is opposite your left foot because the hip likes to hike up towards your ear. So like the I don't think anyone saw that, but yeah, the hip moves down toward the left foot kind of. Yes, good. And then bring the leg back up to vertical. Up to vertical. We're coming out. And then all the way down to Supta Tadasana. So both legs together on the ground.
Oh.
And take a moment in Supta Tadasana to feel the effect of that work on your right leg. The right leg probably feels very different than the left leg does right now. Is that true? Yes. Cool. All right. Second side, if you need to move your buttock flesh towards your heels again, this is a good time to do that. And then from your best Supta Tadasana, reclining mountain pose, tuck up your left shin. Keep the right leg extending. Take a moment in that bent leg phase to pull the two thighs away from each other. I know we've all done this a million times and it's kind of tempting to go through it as if we know it. But the whole point of yoga is we don't know it. This second is different than the last time we did it. So extend those two thighs away. Yes. And then keeping the right leg really grounded, straighten the left leg up to vertical. One hand on each side of the strap. That keeps our shoulder collarbones spreading. It'd be great if I forgot body parts. And walk your hands up so that your arms can be straight on your belt. Again, two straight arms, two straight legs. Nice. Now extend both legs. Press through the big toe base joint. If I were in the room with you, I would take my finger and walk over and push on your big toe base joint, not the toe, but on that base joint, and say, push this. And you would push against it and it would engage the entire leg. So feel when you engage that big toe base joint, feel how it works all of those leg muscles. Everybody straighten your leg a little bit more. Yes, thank you. Beautiful. Last piece of the puzzle, roll that left hip toward the wall at your feet. Roll the left hip away from your head. That should make the pose more difficult. And that means A, you were cheating a little bit by hiking the hip up. And B, now you're stretching. Yay. Good. And now after your best extension ever, pass both sides of the strap to your left hand. Put your mind back in the right thigh before you move because it's going to want to have a tendency to flicker. Don't let it flicker. Right leg rock solid. Take that left leg up and over towards your left shoulder. Keep it straight and move it up and out. Right arm out at shoulder height, palm up. That gives you a little more stability. Good. And now check back in with the right thigh. Is it still working? Is it still extending? Check back in with the left hip. Is it still rolling toward the wall past your right foot? Good. And roll the abdomen this time from left to the right hip, from the left side of the abdomen to the right hip, so that your torso stays level on the ground and you don't roll toward that extended leg. Nice. And press through the big toe base joint. I see a couple of big toe base joints that have gone to sleep. Big toe base joint, big toe base joint, left one, both of them, really. But yeah, yes, I'm looking at you. Left big toe base joint, not the toe. Nice. One more extension. Extend as lengthily as you can, and then bring that leg back up to vertical. And down to Supta Tadasana. And take a moment to observe the effects of that work. And then for just a second, tuck your knees, roll to your right, sit up and look here. So we're gonna do the third one. We're gonna do the Parivrtta one. And I know you've probably done it before, but there are two phases and I wanna be sure that we're understanding both phases. So from the same beginning, tuck the shin up, extend both legs, hand to big toe one, get that proper. This time I'm gonna pass both sides of the strap to my right hand. I roll the hip down toward the wall at my feet here. And then first, I just move the leg over as far as it can go, again, across my body, as far as it can go, keeping my hips and shoulders on the ground. And this honestly, a lot of people don't go very far here and it feels like a huge stretch. It doesn't look like it's much, but it's a muscle that we don't stretch often, so it really is. We will take several breaths here to try to loosen this up, and then we're gonna go for the full face. Oh, and I should show on the other side so that you can see, hang on. So we're like this, and then we will go ahead and let the hip come up and continue rolling, but keep the shoulders on the ground. So my left shoulder is still grounded, even though my left hip has come off. So two straight legs. My right arm actually is holding my foot now, so it's not straight, but if you're not holding the toe, I guess you could bend the arm anyway, but the back arm is straight and the back shoulder is grounded, and it's a beautiful twist. And up and down. So let's do the Parivrtta, Supta Padangusthasana. So go ahead and always lie down with bent legs. Move the buttock flesh toward the feet. Extend the legs. And go ahead and tuck up your right shin. There you go. Keep the left leg grounded, tuck up the right shin. I showed with the opposite one just because that's my functional leg. And then go ahead and come into Supta Padangusthasana 1. So straighten the leg, come straight up. Good. Keeping the left leg poker straight, pass both sides of the strap to your left hand. Good. Extend the right arm out, shoulder height, palm up. Good. And then keeping the hips and shoulders on the ground, just let that right leg come to the left as much as it can. Both legs, both shoulders on the ground. Straighten the knee, straighten the knee, straighten the knee, really. Good, thank you. Yes. Isn't this a bigger stretch than it looked like? It always surprises me. Straighten the knee, straighten the knee. You come back up higher. So straight is more important than low. Even straighter, even straighter. Come up higher into the air if you can't straighten that knee. There you go. Re-engage both legs. Even here, roll that right hip toward the wall at your feet. Feel how that intensifies the stretch. Yeah, using your hand is a fine idea. Sometimes those muscles don't want to do what our brains tell us, and so giving them a little push can be useful. And then go ahead. Now we're gonna come to the complete phase. No, we're continuing. Yes, we're continuing over to the left. So the hip can come up, but not the shoulder. Not the shoulder. So Gay, go ahead and put the shoulder back on the ground. So the hips up, but the shoulder is still grounded. Both shoulders on the ground. And not everybody's foot may touch the ground. That's okay. Come as far as you can, keeping the shoulder on the ground. Make sure both legs are still straight. Extend through both big toe base joints. Yes, I hear the noises of happiness here. This is an intense pose. It does not look that intense. Like I said, this is a muscle we don't stretch very much. So see in the next few breaths if you can find some sukha, some sweetness, some joy in this pose. Extend the legs. Roll the right hip toward the wall at your feet. Breathe. And then come back up to vertical. Release the strap, come back down to Supta Tadasana, reclining mountain pose. And take a moment to feel the effects of that stretch. That's more of a groin opener than a hip opener for a lot of us. So just feel what that has given you. I guess I can do this since I'm standing for a while. Great. If you need to move your buttock flesh towards your heels, this is a good time. Now, hike up your left shin. Take a moment to move those two. Belt the left metatarsals and go ahead and bring that left leg vertical. Take just a breath in Supta Padgusthasana 1. Good. Good. Now pass both sides of the strap over to the right hand. Extend the left arm at shoulder height, palm up. And then go ahead and let that left leg come over to the right. Keep both shoulders, both hips on the ground. Left leg to the right. Straighten the knee. Straighten the knee. I see 3 people whose knees could be dramatically straighter. So it's your job to check in and see if you're one of them. And then roll that left hip toward the wall at your feet. Yes. Delicious, isn't it? That's quite a stretch. Oh, be sure that you keep the left hip on the ground for this phase. So you may not go that far, that's fine, but the left hip should be on the ground. The left hip should not be in the air. Thank you, yes, good. 2 more breaths here, extend both legs. Keep rolling the left hip toward the wall at your feet. And then, now your hip can come up, but the shoulders both stay on the ground as you allow that left leg to come all the way to the right. That's handy. You have your own personal footstool. Once your legs are both extended, re-straighten the left leg, re-roll the left hip toward the wall at your feet. Extend both arms. Feel those shoulder blades on the floor. And find some sukha in the pose. Check back in with the right leg. Be sure that its knee does not bend. The right leg still needs to be straight. Yes, good. Good. One more happy breath here. Extend. And then back up to vertical. Release the strap. Back down to Supta Tadasana. And after, really do take a moment. Feel how this work has impacted your hips, your groins. Once you have done that observation, then roll to your side and take another Adho Mukha Svanasana. Downward facing dog. And feel, for most of us, the legs and hips will be much more open in this down dog than they were in the last one. Pull the thighs back to the wall behind you. Lift the forearms away from the floor and descend the thoracic spine toward those thighs. Nice. Then walk forward. Once your feet are under your hips, stop. Engage the quadriceps. For a moment, let the head and torso hang. And then keeping the legs engaged, hands to the hips, roll the shoulders back and come up to standing. All right, one more piece of, well, actually we might have a couple more pieces of floor work. We're going to do Prasarita Padasana now, not Prasarita Padachanasana, but Prasarita Padasana. Some people know it as 30, 60, 90. And I don't know, we haven't done it in a while with Anne. What we do is, again, buttocks to the heels, legs down. You can have your arms either here at your sides. If you have a little back pain, you can tuck, or if you have low back instability, if you have real low back instability, use a blanket under your hips like this, okay? So you have some choices. But the 30 is just legs straight up, okay? So again, this helps stabilize. If you want to challenge yourself, you can put your arms straight up. That's a little bit harder. From this, working the legs, we're gonna engage the abdomen. We're gonna really press the sacral spine into the floor. There shouldn't be a big gap under the sacral spine. And then we're gonna go down to 30 degrees lower, and then 60 degrees lower, and then 90 degrees lower. I'm just hovering over the floor and then back up. There are some rules. If your lower back pops up into an arch, then either really press the abdominal muscles down to flatten it or come back up, because you don't want to be giving yourself a big sway back here. That's when people get into back trouble. So again, don't push yourself past your safe limit, right? If you can't come all the way down here without an arch, come back up here, all right? These are fabulous core strengtheners. It actually helps, so yes, after you've moved your buttock flesh towards your heels, go ahead and lift your legs up to vertical. Now feel the sacrum on the floor here. That's the first thing. Be sure that you understand what a flat sacrum feels like. And if your sacrum doesn't feel flat here, put that blanket under your hips. I promise it will help. Now straighten the legs, press the legs together. That really helps too. Keeping the legs pressed together is going to help this whole endeavor. Good. Now, with an exhalation, lower the legs 30 degrees. Extend through the legs, press the thighs together, push out through the big toe base joints. Working legs help this. Then come a little lower, 30 more degrees down. Yeah, the holds are hard, aren't they? Extend through the heels, press the thighs together, extend out. Then 30 more degrees down, extend through the heels, work, then lift back up to vertical. Good. On your own time, do that 3 more times. Again, if that's appropriate for you. If it's not appropriate for you, just stay with your legs vertical. That's also perfectly acceptable. If you're doing the downs though, keep the knees straight and extend. Feel the muscles really squeezing together and extending out. That helps. When you're done, go ahead and just bend your knees and put your feet flat on the floor. Some people are still working. Good. And then tuck your knees, roll to your right and come up to sitting. We're heading toward Paschimottanasana, which I will do from the side again. So if you needed support under your hips for your Dandasana, you're going to need it for Paschimottanasana too. So take whatever support you need so that your spine can be straight when you're sitting in staff pose flat on the floor. And have your strap nearby, and probably have a brick and a couple of blankets too, just in case. I don't know what everybody's capacity is. So Paschimottanasana is intense forward fold. If you have any lower back stuff going on, keep your legs hip width apart. Otherwise, you can do the classical pose with your legs together. So first, go ahead and take your Dandasana, fingertips behind you, get the spine as straight as possible, lift the sternum, press the thighs, extend out through the legs, spread the toes. My teacher, Peggy Kelly, says lively up the toes, so make sure they're lively and spreading. Then go ahead and take the strap again. Remember how wonderful this just gives you so much of it. It is so much easier to get the length when you take the strap around the feet. So go ahead and give yourself that gift. And then press the thighs, lift the sternum. Excellent. And then keeping the sternum lifted, we're going to be going forward. That's what makes Paschimottanasana different than just Dandasana. But if your sternum collapses, come back up. We're going to be coming forward in increments, and we're going to go slower than this. I'm just showing. But if you get to a certain point and your spine collapses, come back to the last phase and sit for a moment to let that spine and the sternum be lifted, okay? So from vertical, press the thighs, keep the thighs working the whole time, walk in a little bit. Press the thighs, so the spine is still. Then keep the thighs engaged, walk in a little more, lift the sternum. Keep the thighs engaged, walk in a little more, lift the sternum. Thighs engaged, walk further, lift the sternum. Really be honest with yourself. When you feel the background, back up, sternum up. Come as far as you can with a straight sternum. When you hit that point, stay at that point for a few breaths. Press the thighs down. Lift from the back spine up toward the head. That helps the extension. Pressing the thighs also grounds everything and helps the lower back. When you've gotten as long as you can and you've stayed there for at least 3 breaths, then you can bend your elbows to the sides and allow your head to come down. And you can put a brick, you want your head to rest on something, your forehead. So you can have a brick at any height, you can have a blanket, or if your head will rest on your shins, you can bring your head all the way down to your shins. We're going to stay here for some breaths, but re-engage the thighs. Press those thighs into the floor. Keep pushing the thighs down and extending up from the back spine. Sometimes in the class, I'll go and literally put my fingers on somebody's spine and lift up toward the head, up toward the head, up toward the head, showing them what it feels like when they muscularly move all of the back body flesh up, because it does help intensify the forward bend. Keep working the thighs. Thighs press down, thighs press down, thighs press down. If you don't have head support, can you get a brick and a blanket and put your forehead on something? Because it's really best if the legs work, but the head can be soft. Yes, thank you. And if your head's really not touching your brick, can you grab a blanket or something else? Don't force it. Then re-engage the thighs. Press the thighs into the ground. Feel your muscles moving from the tailbone all the way up, as if you were muscularly moving everything in your back up toward the shoulder side. That helps the forward bend. Two more long breaths, re-engage those thighs. I promise working the thighs harder helps the lower back. After your second long, slow breath, come back to vertical. And for a moment, really lift your sternum, lift the side body, be in a 90-degree angle. All right, next pose is Janu Shirshasana. So you're gonna move your, oh, this is perfect. You're gonna move your right knee out to the side and I will mirror you. So from Dandasana, take your right hand, move the right leg out to the side and pull that heel as close to the perineum as you can. Again, if you need the support, stay on your blankets. Only remove the support when your back can stay perfectly perpendicular without the blankets. Is your back okay? Is everybody's back doing okay? If somebody needs to back off, tell me, I can give you something else to do. Right. So from this position, notice how our bodies are kind of twisting toward the bent knee. Take your fingertips to the ground and re-square the pelvis and torso to the front. You'll want to have your strap nearby here too. Good. Lift the sternum, really press into the bent knee sits bone. It likes to get light as we turn away from it, so keep it grounded. So your extended leg, Dandasana, and use that to lift the spine. And be happy. Yoga is so fun. Then with a straight spine, lifted sternum, do the same walking forward that we just did in Paschimottanasana. Every time I come forward though, I really have to remind myself to extend the bent leg thigh. Extend the thigh away, keep that grounded. And extend my sternum. So I come forward, I extend the bent leg thigh, I lift my sternum. I come forward, extend the bent leg thigh, lift my sternum. Once again, come as far forward as you can with a straight back. When the back rounds, that's as far as you're going to come in this position. When you've gotten to your maximum, same thing. Reground the legs, keep working the leg base, but bend your elbows and allow your head to descend. And here I need a little more support because it's an uneven pose, so I'm going to take a brick under my forehead. Keep extending the bent knee thigh. Keep lifting the back muscles from the tailbone all the way up. Be sure that your head is truly supported. That allows the brain to rest even while the legs work. Yes, a chair is a great idea. One more breath. And then come back up to the concave phase. So as far as you got with a straight back first, take that pose, and then all the way up to vertical. And then lift your knee, extend your leg back into Dandasana. And we have a second side. I don't think I can do it on this side. So this time, bend your left leg. Yeah, no, that's not gonna happen. Bend your left leg. I will not mirror this time. Into a right angle. Move the buttock flesh if you need to for clear sits bones. Use your fingertips to help re-straighten your torso towards your foot. Good. And then grab your strap and take the vertical phase. Lift up. Keep extending that bent leg thigh away from you. Keep grounding both legs. Then begin the walk forward. Walk forward, extend the bent leg thigh, lift the sternum. Walk forward, extend the bent leg thigh, lift the sternum. Forward, ground the thigh, lift the sternum. When you've come to your maximum, lift the sternum one more time, get long, and then bend your elbows and allow yourself to recline. Keep extending the bent leg thigh, keep both legs working. See if you can not only find the sukha, the sweetness in this pose, but as you stay, can you extend the spine more from moving from the tailbone through the spine, vertebrae by vertebrae, up toward the head. One more breath. And come back to the concave phase. And all the way up. Lift the bent knee and extend into Dandasana. I'm very excited because this is the pose we have been building to. We're going to do Ubaya Padagustasana. I think Anne has taught it before, but maybe not in a while. So Ubaya Padagustasana starts with bent knees and extend your with straight arms. If you can't hold your toes, you can use a strap around the metatarsals of the feet. Either way, you start with bent knees, then you rock back and lift the feet off the ground. Take a breath to get your balance. Lift the sternum, no collapsing sternums, so take a second and lift the sternum here. And then extend the legs. I have to move this. And lift, lift. I'm turning sideways. Keep lifting the sternum, broaden the collarbones. These are looking good. Straighten the knees. See if you can bend the elbows and lift a little more. The same action we did just a minute ago by lifting the spine away from the tailbone toward the head side. Can you elongate your back by doing that? Lift, lift, and bend your knees and come out. How'd that go? Yes, no? I think that's worth one more try. Those looked good, they really did. But I'm hoping we can take it a step further and get that extension. I'm gonna show, it's so hard to not be in the room. Really, truly, I would come and I would put my fingers here and lift and lift. So do it to yourself, lean a little forward, feel what happens when you take your even palm and just pull the spine up toward the head side. You feel your entire spine and torso getting longer, and you feel how it makes the forward bend easier. Everybody trying that experiment? Pat yourself on the back. It really, when I learned to do that, it changed my forward bends. And so if you can do that in Ubaya Padagustasana, you can really Get close to the legs. So let's try one more time. So bend up your knees. Place the strap if you're going to use a strap. Roll back so that you can balance on your sits bones and take a couple of breaths here to really get the balance. Good. And then extend your legs. Straighten the knees. Push the toes against either the strap or your fingers and lift your sternum. And then think about somebody taking a hand from your lower sacrum all the way up your spine and just move all of those muscles up toward the head side. Can you get longer? Can you extend the torso? Can you bring this closer? And release. Nice. All right. Upavista Konasana. Wide-legged floor pose. Here too, if you needed support under your buttocks for Dandasana, you'll need it here. If you use support here, it's better to use it angled so that your sits bones can be on the blanket, but thighs aren't. So if I were gonna do this, I just have it facing this way and sit back here. Just a little bit of a corner so that your thighs can descend. Ooh, that's, yeah, you guys are gonna have to stagger. So many legs. Great. And then when you have come to your wide-legged pose, check your toes, be sure they're pointing straight up. Press your thighs into the ground, extend through both legs, take your fingertips behind you and be sure your sternum is fully lifted and your spine is straight. Then of course, we're gonna make it harder. Once you've got a straight spine, Urdhva Hastasana. Don't lose the spine, don't lose the sternum. Sternum up, everybody grab your sternum, lift your sternum up. I'm not joking, take your right hand, grab your sternum, pinch your skin, lift it up. See, then keep it that high when you raise the arm again, I can't speak. One more breath. All right, you can bring your arms down again. Good. So we're gonna turn to your right, I will mirror. Take your left hand between your legs and your right hand behind you. Again. Round into your left sits bone. It's going to want to get light as we turn. So press that sits bone, extend that back thigh, and turn towards your right leg. Keep the sternum straight. Sternum straight. Keep the spine straight, sternum lifted. Bob, this time I'm positive you are leaning toward the front leg. So up, lift that sternum. Yeah, we're not, yeah, there you go. Good. So with every inhalation, get taller. With every exhalation, use your hands on the ground to turn into the twist a little more. Always checking to be sure that you're not losing pressure on your left sits bone. So inhale, get tall. Exhale, rotate more. Press the sits bone. Inhale, get tall. Exhale, rotate more. Press the sits bone. One more time. Inhale, get as tall as possible. Exhale, rotate more. Keep that right sits bone, left sits bone pressing. And come back to center. Both hands behind you, be straight up and down for a second. Good. Then Urdhva Hastasana again. And after you've lifted the sternum, this time right hand between the legs, left hand behind you, and turn toward the left leg. Be sure to keep the right sits bone grounded. Be sure especially to keep the right toes pointing straight up. They like to wing out when we're turning away from them. So inhale, get taller. Exhale, turn even more intensely toward your left foot. Check in to be sure you're still pressing the right sits bone, right toes are still straight up. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, turn, check the sits bone and the toes. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, turn, press the sits bone and the toes. Last one. Lift the sternum. I see a couple of sternums that are sinking. The sternum wants to be tall. Get as tall as possible. Rotate. Extend both legs. And come back to center. Now, we're going to come a little bit forward to complete our forward bending of the day. So be sure that your sits bones are clear on the ground and ground the back of the thigh. Where the back hips come down to the ground, really push that down. Don't let them roll up. That's what is going to protect the lower back. So with those 2 points pushing down, come as forward as you can, keeping the sternum straight. And again, do it in increments. A little bit forward, press those 2 hip creases in back down to the floor, lift the sternum. A little bit more forward, back hip creases to the floor, lift the sternum. A little bit more forward, back hip creases to the floor, lift the sternum. We're not going to fold forward on this one. We're just going to come to our maximum with the sternum lifted. But ground the 2 hip creases. When you finally hit your maximum, ground the hip creases and abide here for 3 breaths. Make sure both toes are still pointing up to the ceiling. Make sure both thighs are still pressing down and extending out. Lift the sternum. If your back has rounded, come up. Come up a little bit. Yeah, don't let the back round. Sternum up. There's a time at the end of this pose, if we're going to finish the pose, that we would do that. But right now we're working on just lengthening the spine after the curling that we did. And then all the way back up. And of course, I don't have time for maybe 3 things. Let's go ahead and we've already done a little twist. Let's take a quick Setu Bandha. So have a brick nearby. I like to have something that's not sticky mat under my head. This is interesting. My whole head's going to be in darkness. That's unfortunate, but I guess you don't need to see my head. So for the Setu Bandha, you start with bent knees, roll and tuck your shoulders towards your feet. If you can grab your ankles, that's fabulous. I can't, so I hold the sides of my mat. And then lift your buttocks up and roll and tuck the shoulders again. Roll and tuck the shoulders. Take 2 breaths here, lifting the buttocks as much as possible, and then take your nearby brick and place it horizontally under the sacrum, close to the tailbone. Don't have it up in the lower back. And then extend your arms towards your feet again, roll and tuck the shoulders, and extend out through the inner thighs toward the wall across from your knees. Here too, the sternum lifts to the ceiling. Yeah, if you want to extend the legs, you can extend the legs, but that's a much more intense back bend feeling on the lower back. And since we've been doing forward bends, most people probably will not want to do that right now. Well, this is a perfectly fine variation of Setu Bandha. Just be sure that the shoulders are rolled and tucked toward the feet and the sternum is lifted toward the ceiling. Extend those inner thighs one more time. Be sure that the knees aren't winging out away from each other. The thighs should be hip width. To come up, first lift the buttocks off of the brick, remove the brick, but stay up for a second. Engage the buttocks, extend the spine toward the buttocks, so lengthen. And then roll down from the top spine, 1 vertebrae at a time. And rest for a second with your knees bent. And then we've got time for a Viparita Karani, legs up the wall. So everybody, unless you prefer a bolster, take 2 book-folded blankets, a space at the wall, have the neat edge of the blanket facing away from the wall. And roll in so that your buttock bones stay on the wall as you lie down. And put the sits bones on the wall and extend the legs up. You can have your arms in cactus shape. And allow the torso to relax into the ground. The legs are still working enough to stay upright, but they're no longer doing 100% activity as they have been all class. This is definitely a cooling down pose. With every exhalation, observe how the abdomen recedes toward the spine in this posture. I'm coming up, you stay. Yeah, dogs love Viparita Karani because your faces are right down there. So remember, this is still a posture, so have your arms symmetrical. Cactus arms are usually the best because that allows us to stay broad across the collarbones. And I'm going to give you a choice. If you're happy where you are, you can stay in Viparita Karani for the Shavasana time. If you'd prefer to tuck your knees up, roll to your right, and take a classical Shavasana, this would be a good time to do that. Whichever pose you're in, release effort. Allow your torso to sink into the floor. Allow your mind to focus only on your breath. Draw your awareness back. Extend your fingers. Extend your toes. Place your hands on your rib cage. Draw your knees into your chest. And roll to your right. Careful if you're right next to another person. And let your head come up last as you press yourself to a sitting position. Yes. And come to a comfortable seated position, and we'll pay our respects to the practice. Thank you all for sharing your practice with me this morning. Namaste. Happy Saturday.